The Night Agent is an action drama series on Netflix from Sean Ryan, based on the original novel by Matthew Quirk. In this video, we'll explore one of the early scenes in the first episode and see how Suspense is written with its story beats. Per usual, there will be spoilers to the story of The Night Agent, so I recommend checking out the series before proceeding further. As a general story overview, this thriller series follows federal agent Peter Sutherland, who works late at night as a phone operator for a top-secret espionage program called Night Action. Every night, from the evening to early morning, Peter sits in a secluded room working at the White House, analyzing documents while waiting for a landline phone to ring if there is an emergency. We discover that the Night Action program is essentially a hotline for U.S. spy agents who are in trouble, calling for backup. The series introduces a second protagonist, Rose Larkin, who is a former tech CEO. She recently lost her job when her startup failed, and she's now living with her aunt and uncle. Unknown to Rose, her aunt and uncle are U.S. spies who give her information to call the Night Action Hotline when their home is invaded by two assassins one night. The scene we'll explore is when Peter and Rose meet for the first time on the phone via the Night Action Hotline. To start off, we can ask, what is the emotional center of the scene? In other words, what is the scene really about? I think this scene is a crucial story scene where the two main protagonists meet, and it establishes the foundation for their relationship throughout the series. We're seeing both Peter and Rose's individual strengths, and seeing how they can work well together as a team. As we get into the story beats for the scene, it becomes clear how Suspense is written by alternating between waves of setups and payoffs, and playing with the audience's expectations. Clear obstacles are established, and the audience is constantly wondering how the protagonist will overcome the obstacles as antagonistic threats escalate. When Rose first calls the Night Action Hotline, she doesn't know what Night Action is or what to expect. Her aunt and uncle hurriedly gave her the phone number and key code before they were murdered. So at the top of the scene we're exploring, Rose has fled to a neighbor's empty house after the two assassins have killed her aunt and uncle. Rose goes into the scene with little information, and we're trying to figure out what's happening just as she is doing so. This puts us as the audience close to her perspective. Back at the White House, Peter picks up on Rose's call to the Night Action Hotline. He's simply doing his job as he asks her preliminary questions, and he doesn't know Rose or her current situation. So tension is increased here as time is of the essence for Rose, but Peter is not on the same page as her. As Rose frantically explains that she has fled from two assassins and is hiding out in a neighbor's house, Peter presses her to follow protocol with giving him key information to identify herself. But Rose can't because she has no context for the hotline. This puts their dynamic at a crossroads, and we get to see part of Peter's empathetic character as he breaks protocol. He chooses to help her, taking a chance by asking her to detail more of her situation so he can figure out a solution. So now we have the two protagonists getting on the same page, forming a team dynamic that can carry them forward. Meanwhile, the antagonistic threat is reintroduced when Rose looks out the window and sees one of the assassins heading towards the house. She tells Peter about the assassin, and they start working as a team. He tells her to head upstairs and to set up a ruse in case the assassin goes inside the house. Peter tells Rose to lock the bathroom, but not to stay inside it. Peter tells Rose to find another spot to hide, and she identifies a closet on the other side of the floor. But Rose deviates slightly from Peter's instructions, which helps us to see more of her character. She grabs a mirror and places it by a nearby doorframe so that she can keep an eye on the closed bathroom door in case the assassin tries to open it. The story beat increases the tension because time is running out, but we also want to see Rose take proactive action to improve her situation. So Rose hides in the closet and the assassin enters the home, eventually figuring out that Rose has taken the landline phone and probably has moved upstairs. The scene ramps up the suspense because we start to see more and more of the events from Rose's claustrophobic perspective inside the closet. And she's still on the phone with Peter, but he can't physically do anything to help her, which also heightens the suspense. Rose sees the assassin find the closed bathroom door, and then eventually forces it open. We feel Rose's terror as the assassin realizes it's a ruse, turns around, and then heads in the direction of the closet where she's hiding. As the audience, we are dreading the possibility that she will be found, and this becomes even more desperate when we see the assassin find the mirror at the doorway. This tells us that the assassin is figuring out Rose is nearby somewhere. Meanwhile, Peter can only speak to Rose over the phone, telling her to fight like hell if the assassin finds her in the closet. We feel Peter's helplessness when he realizes that Rose is inches away from being discovered by the assassin. The scene has helped us to buy into Peter and Rose as a team, and we feel their emotions because of the setups leading into their first meeting, and also how they've worked together to figure out a plan. Interestingly enough, after we see the assassin discover the mirror from Rose's perspective, the camera stays inside the closet with Rose, never cutting to outside the closet. This visual technique keeps us inside the closet with Rose as beams from a flashlight start to pour into the closet's Venetian blinds. We barely see a figure starting to open the door when we realize that it's a police officer, not the assassin. We soon learn that the assassin quickly fled the scene through a window, and now Rose is safe with the police. So overall, this tense scene from The Night Agent draws us into a scenario where the two main protagonists meet when they're forced to work with each other. The scene puts us into Peter's and Rose's shoes, and it plays on how both characters are working on limited information as they try to figure a way out of the scenario. By making the scene very specific, the filmmakers pull us into it with tension and suspense that pays off well.